I'm standing on the plain of Pharsalus in central Thessaly in Greece. Over there to my left, where those buildings are, is the River Enipeas. Straight in front of me is where Pompey's legions would have been. His camp somewhere in those hills. These run along to my right. And then you're going over there behind where Caesar was advancing from, and over there you've got the modern town of Farsala, which is Pharsalus. So, August 48 BC by the ancient calendar, probably late June, early July by our modern calendar. This was the culmination of the civil war. Caesar had pursued Pompey and his allies and his legions over to Epirus and then to Greece, and had nearly come unstuck at Dyrrhachium, but had been chased then into Thessaly by Pompey, who famously wanted to starve him into submission. Caesar was outnumbered significantly. He probably only had about 22,000 legionaries on that day in August 48 BC, whereas Pompey had 45,000. So these were this was something that Caesar, really didn't want battle, and yet Pompey's advisors, more or less, we are told, pushed him into fighting. And so the legions formed up, as they typically did, in three big lines. They used the River Enipeas over there on the left as their flank, and that meant that all the cavalry was on Caesar's right and Pompey's left. Now, unfortunately for Caesar, he had an inferior number of cavalry, and the enemy cavalry, the Republicans, were led by his former lieutenant Labienus. So this was going to be something that might be a decisive blow in the battle. And so Caesar, knowing that, and being the genius he was, kept a small force of soldiers behind, specifically to deal with these cavalry. His men were lined up much shallower than his enemy because he had half the numbers. They were only 6 deep, we're told. And Pompey, knowing the day was hot and wanting to utilize his strength and depth, told his men not to advance towards Caesar. So Caesar's men started charging towards the Pompeian legions, and yet their discipline was so amazing that when they realized what was happening, that the enemy wasn't recharging. Yeah, locals. Yeah, thanks very much, mate. I'm on an open road here, not causing any problem at all. There's no traffic. So when Caesar's legionaries saw what was going on, they actually regrouped and reformed before attacking the Pompeian legions. When they hit, the cavalry battle had begun as well, and the Pompeian cavalry quickly drove away Caesar's cavalry, and that was when Caesar's fourth line, which was positioned at an oblique angle to his 3 lines on his right flank over here, they charged at the enemy cavalry. Now, legionaries didn't normally do that. In fact, it's very rare for infantry to charge cavalry. And in a lovely quote that would still have echoes right through to Napoleonic times, when cavalrymen were regarded as the glory boys and the men who thought they were superior to the infantry, Caesar, we are told, had ordered his men to jab their javelins, their spears, at the faces of the cavalrymen because they were pretty boys who wouldn't like that. And indeed they didn't. They panicked, they turned around, they fled, and Caesar's third line, his most experienced legionaries, were then able to sweep around to the right and hit the rear and side of the Pompeian legions. And when you did that in ancient times, that was it. The battle was won. The Pompeians broke. They were pursued from the battlefield. Pompey had to flee for his life, disguising himself as an ordinary soldier. And many thousands of Pompeian legionaries were taken prisoner. The sources tell us 6,000 to 15,000. It's obviously unsure how many were killed, but the rest, nearly all, were taken prisoner by Caesar, who cleverly forced them to swear allegiance to him and thereby increased the size of his army. So this was an incredible victory against overwhelming odds. Yet again, Julius Caesar proving that not only was luck on his side, but that he was one of the smartest generals ever. Thank you for watching.